Hello, this is a quick walkthrough of the race creation phase for the game System at War. I'm going to be going through the walkthrough that is in the rulebook currently on pages 4 and 5, which you can find in the files section on Board Game Geek. There are a couple things to have to hand at the start. First of all, you can see we have the players John, Sue and Mike on the table, each with their own player mat. Then from the rulebook we are going to have to hand the race stat costs, and that's going to be placed on the table so we can just see there the base values that each race starts with and the costs of purchasing new ones. We also have some race stat tables which we are going to randomly select one of them, and as you can see it tells you on each one of the tables how many points are available for each type of stat dependent on the number of players. Since we've got 3 players, it will be the top row of stats. So I will now do that, and I'm going to randomly select by rolling a dice or such, and we just so happen to have the top one by there. And I'm going to slide this under here as well so I can see the costs of each of those stats. To help remind us what's available and make it a bit easier for you to see, there are 6 points of intel available to buy, so I'm going to put 6 cubes there. There's only 1 point of ground combat, 1 point of space combat. There are 3 mining points available. There's 1 orders, 3 engineering, 6 diplomacy, and then finally trade agreements. There are quite a few of these, there's 9, but to be honest they're very unlikely to get used in a 3-player game because there's not going to be that much trade going on between the players. Now the players each get dealt one of these, which is a blank stat card. These are disposable and get written on and then disposed of at the end of each game. Also, there are the racial texts, and each player randomly gets assigned one of these as well. So we'll do that first, and we'll just plonk those down on there, and then we can mix these up and give each player one of those and put them on their race or tech areas on their player mats, and then the rest put away. So that gives each player their own sort of personal technologies that they can develop, which can make them different to everybody else. Now we go into the purchasing of the stats. To decide who goes first, just roll a dice. We roll dice, and it just so happens John, then Sue, then Mike will be the order. The purchasing is split into 4 rounds. There are 6 points, which we're going to use these green cubes for to represent, that you get given in each of the 4 rounds, and you can use those 6 points to purchase your racial stats. And we also have the race trait cards. There's a little deck of these, and we randomly select a number based on the number of players. In this game we have 3 players, so we have 3 times that number, so we'll have 9 of these. Now in a 4-player game you would have 12, in a 5-player game you would have 15. We have the diplomat card, the reacquiring target, technology advance, production boost, factory overload, suicide captains, art of surprise, initiative taker, and ambush tactics. Those are the ones available in this game to buy. In each round, players are only allowed to buy 1 of those, and they're only allowed a maximum of 3 of them in total. So even though there's 4 rounds, you can't buy one every round. John, he goes first. He thinks, well, I'll spend one of my points on production boost by here. So we can see that only costs 1 point. It's single use, and when he uses it, one of his planets can double its resources value for that 1 round. So he puts that on his card. Also, he then decides to spend 4 points on one of these mining bonuses. So he's going to take that off there, put it on his little sheet so we can remember, and he's going to save that last point he hasn't spent to carry into round 2. So these spent points can just go over here. Sue decides to spend 3 of her 6 points on purchasing one of the intels. She also saves the other 3 points to carry them over into round 2. Mike spends 2 points on one of these diplomacies. So let's pop that by there. Then we go back to John, but now it's round 2. We give each player another 6 points to spend. John has 7 points. For 1 point, he can buy the factory overload. Now you say, why 1 point? Because it says it costs 3. Well, because he's already purchased 1 race trait, that automatically knocks 1 point off the next one you buy. Also, during rounds 2 and 3, all of the race traits naturally become 1 point cheaper than their face value. So this is now 1 point instead of 3 points, because it's -1 for being in round 2 and minus another 1 because he's already got 1. But they're always a minimum of 1 point. So he will purchase the factory overload for 1 point. He also buys 2 intel bonuses. Now they are 3 points each, so that's the remaining 6 points. Sue has 9 points to spend. She spends 8 of those points buying the only extra order that is available. So she will have an advantage in that area during the game, without a doubt. But her 1 remaining point, she will spend on ambush tactics, which is normally 2 points, but again, because it's round 2, it's now 1 point. And she pops that on her sheet. Mike spends all 10 of his points on a space combat bonus. Now that is the only space combat available in this game, so we can see that Mike would have the advantage there in space combat. That will give him +1 on all of his dice rolls during space combat. Okay, so that is the end of round 2. So let's now move on to round 3, awarding each player 6 points to spend again. First of all, we have John. He decides to buy suicide captains. Now, it's normally 4 points. Because it's round 3, it's only 3 points. And because he's already got 2, it goes down another 2 points, so it's only 1 point. So he gets that at a good bargain. He also buys another intel for 3 points. So he's got 3 bonuses on his intel so far. And that leaves him with 2 points to carry over into the last round. Sue thinks, right, okay, I'm going to spend all 6 of my points on the last 2 intel bonuses. So she wants to make sure she can do plenty of research during the game. And then Mike spends 2 points on a diplomat. Now this is the first race trait, but it is round 3, so instead of 3 points it is only 2 points. He also spends the remaining 4 points on 2 diplomatic points. So he is going to be quite good at doing diplomacy actions during this game. That moves us on to round 4, the final round in the game. Every player again gets 6 points. John, not allowed to buy any more race traits because he's already got 3. However, he decides to spend 6 of his 8 points on a mining bonus, boost his resources. Now he's got 2 of those, so he's going to be producing a lot. Now you'll notice that was 6 points, while his first one that he bought earlier was only 4 points. That's because mining, if we look at the cost sheet, the first one is 4 points, the second one is 6, and you're not allowed any more mining after that. So some of them, like Intel, remain the same cost, but others step up as you purchase your second one. He then has 2 points left, so he'll spend those on an engineering bonus. So that just increases the amount of ships he can build in a single location. Sue spends all 6 of her points on the ground combat bonus. So at least she's going to be able to defend her planets if they get invaded with that extra bonus. Mike decides to spend 3 of his 6 points on a race trait. He'll take Initiative Taker. Now you'll notice that it was 6 points originally. Being in round 4, it actually reduces by 2 points. So now it's only 4 points. And because he has 1 race trait, it goes down to 3 points. He then has 3 points left. So he will spend 2 of them on Diplomacy, get another Diplomacy level. And he will spend 1 point that is left on a trade agreement, because there's nothing else he can spend it on, but it's probably going to be a bit of a waste. So we now see everyone has purchased everything. So what we do next is we grab a pen, and each player takes their little stat card and updates it. Now, just referring back to the rule book, we can see the base values there. Now we can see it's 5 plus for Intel. So you get 5 as your basic, and then you add on every Intel point you purchased. So for example, John purchased 3 Intel, so his value is now 8. Then you've got ground and space combat, which are 8 minus. Now they haven't purchased any, John hasn't, so his will stay at 8. But we can see that Sue purchased a ground combat, so her number goes down to 7. And that's the number that she needs to score to get a hit. Mike purchased the space combat, so his number would go down to 7, so he would write that in his little box. Mining is 0. Normally, you don't get any bonuses, but however, John has purchased 2, so he gets +2. That means every planet he has will get 2 bonus resources at the start of every round. So he's got quite an advantage on production. Then we have trade. Now Mike's the only one who's got a trade point there. So you start with everyone gets 1, but Mike would get 2. Diplomacy also starts with a base value of 8, and then you deduct the number of points you bought. Mike has bought 4 of them, so he has got a value of 4. So he's doing diplomatic actions, rolling a 10-sided dice, and he only needs to score a 4 or more to be successful with those actions. So he is very good at doing diplomatic actions, which will help him a lot early in the game. Engineering. This is a bonus on what you can normally produce on each planet, the number of ships you can build in one turn. John gets an extra bonus there, no one else does. And the last one, your orders, is the number of turns or orders or captains that you can have given to you at the start of every round. Each player gets awarded 2, but Sue gets an extra one for the one she purchased. So she will have 3 actions per round, or 3 orders, or she could split that up and have 2 captains and 1 order, or she could have 2 orders and 1 captain, to increase the fleet size that she's allowed with her captains, as well as the number of orders that she can issue to those fleets. And that concludes our little walkthrough.